Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office for Tuesday, January the 23rd, 2024. In today's detailed weather forecast, we are going to be looking at the possibility for another big storm sequence for the west with serious flooding potentially likely, with some heavy rainfall for the southeast, for the deep south, with a big, massive warm-up that we definitely need to talk about because we could definitely see some records. Now, before we do get talking about the weather, it's a really good, important idea that we do talk about the ice storm that just happened yesterday and the day before in the Midwest, such as Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. Devastating impacts to see with downed trees, power lines, with a fire truck. Take a look at this. A fire truck spinning out of control. I mean, this is just absolutely courageous to see. I just hope people in that fire truck are okay because that was a very hard hit. You could even hear the impact. Well, I'm not going to show it here on the video because I don't want to get copyrighted, sound trademarked and stuff, but this is from X Talk. The impact of that fire engine, wow, it's just absolutely devastating to see. And this is from More Weather, by the way. You're awesome at making posts, More Weather on Twitter. This guy is ice skating down his lawn. Take a look. This is just crazy to see. Ice skating on a lawn. You don't see this very often. It's not snowing at all. That is actually him ice skating on his lawn. Here's another one actually from the ice storm that occurred back there in Missouri, Arkansas, and say in Oklahoma. We also have more serious news to talk about really quickly with devastating flooding that moved in across. This is actually in Southern California. Take a look at this. This issues down there. So another one that I wanted to show you is also out of Southern California yet again. Take a look at this. Lots of flooding on the streets there. I mean, cars could barely drive through that. It's like a river of water. It just... Man, it's just awful to see. And I have some more worser news in today's video explaining what this means for the next couple of weeks. And one more post. This is actually coming from Colin McCarthy. Very good guy on Twitter. One of the more trusted weather sources out there. And I'll tell you what, this is pretty alarming to see as far as the extension of the NPJ or North Pacific Jet that is going to favor California not only for some very heavy rainfall, but some very warm temperatures because of El Nino. This is what you typically want to see with an El Nino pattern with that extended jet cutting across much of the Pacific. And boy, I mean, take a look at the Climate Prediction Center in today's video. It's looking pretty concerning as far as temperatures and precipitation go. Now, all those links to those Twitter people will be in the link in the description below this video. I want to make sure I'm giving credit to them because of how significant that actually was. But I thought that I would like to share that with you all because that was pretty devastating. Flooding and an ice storm in the Midwest. You don't see that very often for like Southern California, nor do you see an ice storm that magnitude in the deep south. Wow, just extremeness going on, and we are going to continue to see this really crazy weather pattern that will just take us into early February. So here's a look at the European model for this afternoon, and we can see there is more rain coming in over Arkansas, over Texas. The areas that have had ice are now getting rain, so we're going to see enhanced melting and maybe some flood problems out of this for this region, for the Arklatex area. California finally getting a reprieve from all the rainfall, but it's not going to be long because by tonight, we're going to get another big storm system. Lots of rain, maybe some gusty winds over California, northern portion, Oregon, Washington, more snow for the Sierra, and still that rain for the deep south. Let's go now into Thursday, the 25th of January. And yeah, there is still rain falling here in the southeast, even the upper Midwest, and the Deep South, including for the Pacific Northwest. And then let's fast forward. Starts Saturday for Northern California. We're kind of on the cusp. We might see a few sprinkles out of that atmospheric river, but mainly Northern California, like Crescent City. If you're in Portland, Oregon, if you're in Washington, get ready. Buckle up, Buttercup, because lots of storms are coming. It's going to be a very wet stretch here for the rest of January and early February. More rain for the Deep South with that El Nino-driven storm. Now, in the next 5 days, that could become our next snowstorm for the Northeast. Now, there's a little bit of uncertainty in terms of where and when this is going to actually set up, but we're thinking probably on the 27th and the 28th of January, we're probably going to see quite a bit of snow up there, maybe some blizzard conditions, and maybe a renewed risk for ice over northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, southern New York State, as well as Connecticut and Massachusetts. I mean, that's one part of this crazy weather pattern, but it's beyond this when we have to really watch, right? That moves through. But look at Oregon, Washington getting a lot of rainfall, and then eventually California going to get a lot of rainfall. Now, this is a kind of an awkward model run that we have seen today. There are some more models out there that are much more bullish. If we look at the 0Z run from last night on the Euro, more heavier rain, stronger winds, and we can see how that river just sits there of moisture after moisture hitting the state. This model run is very different, extremely different than the last one we saw. So the chances of this coming to fruition is a little on the lower side. We're probably going to see much wetter than normal conditions still for California. This is due to the fact that the Canadian model still has some big time atmospheric rivers. If we look at that for California, look at the dark green on your screen. That is absolutely sickening to see, and that's for the 31st of January, and then look, it still goes on. That's 2 days of heavy rainfall that we could be witnessing here over the state, including a lot of snow for the Rockies and much needed rain, well, kind of needed there in the Pacific Northwest, as long as it doesn't cause a lot of flooding, but unfortunately, we're probably going to see a lot of that take place. So on the European model, this is the deterministic forecast for the next 10 days as far as your rainfall totals go. Once again, anywhere between 2 to 4 inches of rain for the Deep South, for the Midwest, for the upper Midwest, like Kentucky, if you're in Indiana. Not a whole lot of rain. We could see more there for Indiana, but it's not going to add up too well. So make sure you're, of course, saving a little bit of water. But over here for the West, for like California, much needed rain is coming. Now, this is the 12Z run from this morning, but if we look at the run from yesterday and the run before that, really, really wet. So I'm not saying if this is the new trend that models are going to now begin to downtrend on the wet pattern, because of what you're about to see clearly defines that the models may be a little off in today's update. That's a look at rainfall totals. When we take a look at snowfall totals, keep an eye on this system, folks. Here for the Northeast, we might see another big snowstorm, maybe about a 1 to 2 foot mark of snow that is anticipated over central New York. If you're in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine, you're likely to see about 6 to 12 inches of snow. Not much snow across the Intermountain West because these storms are going to be really warm. We're not talking low elevation snow. So if you're wishing Willy Wonka for big snows, sorry, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of it. You're going to have to go really high up in elevation, above 7,000 or 8,000 feet, before you could really get some measurable snowfall across the Intermountain West. So when we do look at the Climate Prediction Center outlook via Radar Omega, wow, this is one of those extremes as far as precipitation goes. All right, very dry likely over the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, down across the Southeast and the Eastern Seaboard. So yeah, you might want to say goodbye to big storms. Not going to see much of an El Nino signal out of that because of the positive AO and NAO. That means more troughing over here, more ridging over the eastern seaboard. But look at this. a lot of troughing, a lot of wet storms coming towards the west. And we can see here there is an 80 to 90% chance that we will have above average rainfall. And it looks pretty significant, folks. I'm not kidding at all. Some of the ensembles, including the Super Blend, 2 to 4 inches above average per 5 days, which is pretty substantial. So big time rains, flooding events are possible over California, over the Pacific Northwest because of this very amplified storm track that is likely to aim storms to California. And if that sounds serious enough, Mark Sedeth, me and him were kind of chatting on Twitter yesterday. He is thinking about coming back or traveling to California, to the mountains of the Sierra, possibly to the Central Valley, because this could be such a big deal. We could be looking at some big time winds and flood concerns. Not only that, the next 14 days likely to feature well above average chances for rainfall and snowfall for the Intermountain West, including for California, especially where there's a 70% chance for above average precipitation. Not only that, the eastern seaboard and the Northeast likely to remain dry for the next couple of weeks. And that brings me to this page from the Climate Prediction Center. This is the risk of heavy precipitation chances. All right, so areas in the darkest green, that is in California here, right? We all have been talking about this on Twitter. I've been even posting a lot about this too. That's the highest chances you can get. A 60% chance for heavy rainfall and flood potential in that area. A moderate risk is issued over the same areas, including for the coast of Oregon and Washington, okay? And the dates are listed there. So between the 30th of January and the 2nd of February, we are certainly likely to see some heavy rainfall. That is 4 days, 5 days of high risk for heavy rainfall, possibly even 6 days according to the moderate risk, and maybe even beyond that through the 5th of February. How about that? So we have a lot of rainfall coming towards the west with things calming down for the southeast. Snowfall risk definitely on the high side for the Sierras there. You can see the magenta pink color, a indication that there is a high risk, a 60% chance you're going to see some decent snowfall. Winds are a moderate risk along the California coast, even including for portions of the Central Valley, stretching into Oregon and Washington. Now, with that off my chest, let's talk about the temperature anomalies, because there is a massive warm-up, similar to early January and December, when this whole area in the United States was very, very warm. So we're going to see the similar output here, unfortunately, on the European model. So let's go forward here, right? So this is a 1-day average mean temperature anomaly. The shadings indicate different temperature anomalies. The red areas above average, the blue areas below average. So let's go forward here in time, because again, a massive warm-up is coming with record-breaking temperatures likely, okay? Let's go forward here into days 3 to 4. You can see over the eastern seaboard and the Midwest definitely warming up, but it's not going to end there. Look at this. By the time we go into days 7 and 8, look how warm Canada is. No Arctic air masses at all. You can say goodbye to that, okay? Just like say goodbye to the Arctic air, because it's not coming back anytime soon. As you can see here, days 10 through 11 on the ensemble forecast, definitely above average. If we look at the previous run, also very similar. So we have high confidence in this forecast, and this will go all the way through days 14 to 15, where the east will have well above average temperatures, including Hudson Bay, as well as much of Canada, while the west begins to see a cool down. Yeah, man, it's just been really warm in the long term. Even so, we had that Arctic outbreak in mid-January. But when we look at the overall temperature patterns over the last 90 days, it is still well above average in the Midwest and the Northern Plains. The reason why this happens is because we're going to see a lot of amplified ridging. The ridge is in the eastern seaboard right now, but as we go forward in time, we will see that that ridge is going to retrograde, and it's going to build over the Midwest, and we can see that shaping up here because we have a positive NAO and a positive AO, right? They counteract with each other. That means we have lower heights over Greenland, means we have amplified ridging over the Midwest and troughing along the west coast of California. Okay, let's go forward. This ridge is going to only amplify. Look at that. I mean, pretty phenomenal to see this in the next 8 to 10 days. And then the pattern just kind of locks in that position where we have a lot of ridging back east and across Canada with troughing out west. And I don't see the pattern really changing very much at all, at least through the first full week of February. Well, anyways, that is going to sum it up for today's detailed weather forecast. I sure hope you all enjoyed the video a lot. If you did, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media. I will keep you all updated every day this week on the upcoming wet pattern out west with a big warm up across much of the Midwest of the United States. We are very likely to see daily records, monthly records, if not all-time records to be tested for early February and late January in the northern tier of the United States, especially in Canada. But thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with you more tomorrow.